we are talking the movie Crypsis. This one by writer-director Paul Anthony Rogers. And in case you don't know, Crypsis is referring to a kind of species which tries to go undetected in nature, essentially. That's kind of the meaning of it, or something along the lines of that. So this is a creature feature movie, and it focuses on a group of guys as they are kind of going on basically a bit of a dare, which involved kind of camping on this particular island, which has all these urban legends on. I think it's called Harbour Island, and so we essentially have these group of guys go camping on there, spend the night. Inevitably, they are not alone. There is some type of creature that is lurking in the kind of the undergrowth that wants to feast on their flesh. Can they escape? You'll have to watch the movie to find out. So let's discuss Crypsis. I would describe this movie as a kind of cross between The Descent and Predator, if we're looking at kind of story beats here. And this is primarily kind of based on the kind of the creature itself. So the creature very much looks like the creature from the Descent movies. It also hunts by sound, assuming because it's got poor eyesight and stuff. So it has that kind of element, but it is not one that is a subterranean creature. It obviously comes out in the woodland, and this being a kind of like a forestry setting, and this creature hunting groups of blokes has that kind of predator feel to it as well. So yeah, it's kind of reminds me of kind of obviously a very low budget version of those two kind of like films combined. The creature itself, I would say, is very well realised, and they do a good job here with kind of practical makeup effects to make this creature look kind of like very kind of real and kind of something that you would, it looks like some type of evolved human or something along the lines of that. We know very little actually about it, but I think it works in the movie's favour here because you can just imagine, very much like the Descent films, you can imagine it's some offshoot of humanity that has somehow kind of evolved into this kind of feral, non-human creature. And this is plussed by some fantastic audio effects here, that we hear this kind of creature kind of growling, howling and crying out in the night. It's really kind of quite haunting there. And there are some kind of pretty kind of like grisly attacks within the movie, although it's not explicitly gory, but it's just kind of the ferocity that this kind of creature makes it kind of quite terrifying. The movie benefits from obviously being shot on location here in a kind of like a wilderness setting, giving it a kind of somewhat kind of isolated feel from kind of the rest of kind of humanity, and it obviously being a set on an island as well. There's only so much kind of ground that these guys can kind of cover. I think the actors here are a bit of a mixed bag. I think the majority here do a pretty decent job of this kind of film. Couple of weaklings, but we'll come on to that here. The movie's relatively well paced. Doesn't take long for the action to kind of kick in, and it doesn't really let up from there. What doesn't work for me? Okay, so like I said, there are some kind of some mixed acting here. Although some, I think the actors here do a decent enough job. There are also some here that maybe are a little bit kind of obviously struggling with the acting, in particular one which is kind of there for kind of comedy relief. The movie is criminally basic plot-wise, however. This really has such a thin plot. It is really just guys go camping and get harassed by a creature, right up until kind of the last 10 minutes. But that is it. It's not any type of sophisticated other than that, really. That might not be a problem for you. But to be honest, this is not really a story. It's just a kind of an experience, if that makes sense. So I've got to say as well, this still be my biggest critique of this film. 50% of the time, this movie is people arguing. It's like arguing the movie. It's just these guys are constantly arguing with each other, and it just gets grating. And I'm not kidding you, 50% of this, I swear, 50% of the screen time is guys arguing. And I get that it's a stressful situation, and I get that you maybe need to have a few scenes like this, but man, really half the running time, and it's just these guys arguing over and over and over again. It gets tiresome. Really, really tiresome. It also makes the guys thoroughly unlikable. And then I've got to say, despite this movie having this really kind of basic plot, the end 10 minutes, decides to do something completely left field and have this kind of almost this, not exactly a twist, but there's kind of like this story beat that comes out of absolutely nowhere and just feels like it's from another film. It doesn't make any sense at all within the context of the film, if you ask me. And I got to say, it makes for, you know, even though you can say, yeah, okay, the storyline was pretty kind of like mundane until this point, this doesn't make it any better, even though it has an attempt, I would say, at having a little bit of a kind of a twist, a rug pulling moment, if you'd call it that. But I don't think it works in context of the logic of the story that's going to present it to us. So, you know, it's a kind of like, I want my cake and eat it too. I think it's a kind of a very basic plot. I want it the only attempt to really to make this any type of complex doesn't work, if you ask me. So overall, I've got to say, I think the actual monster side of things are kind of well done. I will say that. The actual creature itself, the attacks, and the kind of how the creature is presented to us, I actually think is well done here. And that the setting and some of the acting is pretty good. But the story is just non-existent to speak of. And it makes it completely unmemorable, and it just drags it down by this a feeling to pad out the running time with kind of artificial drama and have these guys arguing becomes really, really tiresome. So I want to give this one a 5 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.